aware that I'm the first speaker, and so my challenge is sort of frame this topic. The idea is 4 views of children's ebooks. That's the title of this talk. And there's my 4-view preview if you just want to get started. It's really small, this screen. It's like, okay, that's the first thing I'm learning. It's really small.
Kids don't seem to mind.
Yeah, right. There's a historical view. So yeah, I know, right? It's everywhere. But I have bad vision that way and bad vision this way. I need kind of in the middle. So basically our challenge is we got to get our head around this this haboob of information that is in change, right? And we have no choice. We were born into this generation. We have to figure it out. It's incredibly exciting, and it's also really scary. And there's a lot of resistance. A lot of people hate this technology and just wish it would go away and be uninvented. Well, it's not. It's here. And so one way to figure it out is to take a historical view, and I'm going to do that. Another way to figure it out is to take a theoretical view. These are constants, and if you use these as sort of a filter, things start to make more sense. Then I'm going to talk about the reviewer's view and then the child's view. So the first question is, what is an ebook? And so I pose that back at you being a constructivist. What is an ebook? Help me out. Since I only have 20 minutes, I'm going to jump in. Let's first break it apart, okay, shall we? E in book. We know what a book is. A book is a scroll of paper, right? Other things that you might call a book, a manual, a booklet, a set of instructions. Alan Kay called it a dynabook, and he used the word book, and this was back before this is working. Then there was the living book. The word book was used. The hardcover book, the New York Times bestseller, is all about books, and that's a traditional book, right? So I think you got to understand that a book is something you buy at Barnes & Noble, and you get your head around that definition. And then let's talk about the E part. And I hear a lot of people talking about the E in many ways, and it drives me insane. Because you have the classic, everyone talking about something different, and you can't really get any firm grasp. Some people say enhanced app, or app book, I've heard recently. There's no language for this, right? It's electric. It's an electric book. It's not a P book, so we know what an E is by what it's not. We use a lot the term narrative-driven interactive media. And I like that, because I like interactive media, and I like narrative-driven because it's related in some way to a story or communication between a culture or a group. An enhanced book, an enhanced app book, downloadable, whatever. It's crazy. Is it a blessing or a curse, this new technology? It's a Rorschach test. When I say the word ebook, we all take away our own interpretation, and that's the first place to start. The first way to start a good conversation is to understand that none of us know what we're talking about. We deconstruct it, so let's start constructing it. So when I first began trying to think about what interactive media was, I stopped using the word software, and I started talking about interactive media versus linear media. And interactive means there's a transaction between the screen and the child. Linear media, which there's tons of research on, which Fred Rogers was very interested in, doesn't know if the child leaves the room. It doesn't care. If the child leaves the room, it just keeps going and going and going. But interactive stops. It's a transaction. And all of a sudden, a psychology happens. And so a great way to start this conversation is to understand that every given app or product or ebook or whatever you call it lies on this continuum somewhere, and I think I can hold my finger on the screen and turn it into a laser pointer. Is that sweet?
Fancy.
So down here I've got sort of fixed and linear like a PDF, okay? So we can make an ebook at the end of this conference, just make a PDF, print it out, we're done. In the middle, you've got all this kind of hybrid stuff, and at the very end, you've got what I would hold up as examples as touch press, and maybe, boy, there's a whole bunch of really amazing, really rich interactive kinds of experiences. So think of an ebook as a messy continuum between less and more interactive. That's one way to help. When J.K. Rowling decided to write Harry Potter, she wasn't thinking she was designing a theme park. She was writing a book, but she also made 20 video games from Electronic Arts. She wasn't designing, she didn't know she was designing interactive media. She was making a great story. So a story is a script for all kinds of things. Some of them might be interactive, some of them maybe not. So let's move in now. I'm going to start helping you out. The historical view. Once upon a time, eBooks came on shiny CD-ROMs. Educators were excited. We all knew what they were. They were called the living books. Remember those? Yeah. And eBooks were simple. You bought them for about 50 bucks, put them in your Apple or IBM, and you could interact with them. They were touching here. Now that's a really complicated graph, but basically this is my lifespan, and I'm in my middle 50s. And I was born when, the year I was born, 1958, B.F. Skinner came out with the teaching machine. And that was sort of interactive. And it's kind of fun, if you're around that age, we're living, our lifespan is a living history of interactive. We saw Steve Jobs come out with the Apple II. We remember it, we've seen it. Our school storage closets are full of this stuff, right? And so that's me at High School Foundation with a pencil in my ear studying the Commodore PET. And that's right in the middle of this continuum between B.F. Skinner's teaching machine and the iPad. So what an amazing time that we live. And when you look at literacy, does anyone remember Writing to Read? IBM's Writing to Read, how that was going to totally transform our school system, right? And there's so much carnage along the way. And we have to tell these young folks, we understand what's, and so thinking of this historically is important. We can't start new conversations without learning from the past. I want you guys to watch this. This is called the Playroom, and this is from E3.
PlayStation camera on there with the two lenses.
What's it called?
PlayStation camera.
PlayStation.
I want to make a selection and just click on it. Okay. So I've picked one of the demos, which I think is probably the one that really shows the features really well. So this guy is sending lots of little guys inside my controller. I can feel them inside. So that's a mixture of vibration.
Can I feel it?
Yeah. Vibration and motion sensing. So if you
So I'm getting it haptic.
Yeah.
They're in there.
Yeah.
There's creatures in there.
Yeah, and you can also do it through the speaker. So shall we have a look?
Yeah.
Alright, so if I flick down, I can go inside the controller. Look at that.
Oh my God.
These are the guys. Alright. You see at the top there, all the buttons?
You're inside the controller. That's the view inside the controller. And why not have a disco inside the
Every button's got reaction. If I press the touchpad, you'll be amazed. Something cool as well. The back wall, you see, that's the light bar. If I hide it, everything just stops.
Oh wow.
That's cool, man. Okay, so now I can flick them out, see? With a flick, I can get those guys out.
So they put a little mouse pad on the controller, so it's touch.
Just look inside.
It's multi-touch on the game controller.
I can roll them. Right, let's get a few ones out. Okay, so everybody's out now. So these little guys, they react to motion as well. If you wave at them, they wave back. Play with them. And they go. Of course. So
it's using the camera, using the big screen, so it's got Connect abilities. The Microsoft Xbox Connect. This is coming from Sony this fall.
So anybody with a smartphone or tablet, we want to make.
And now he's pulling an iPad in. Actually, this is Android. Video games are converging with tablets.
Let's put some funny eyes.
now I've got Nintendo Wii U capabilities mixed into this whole bunch.
How's that doing that?
So the PS4 has its own Wi-Fi capability, so you just pair, attach your, make them communicate, and that's it.
And so this is an app that you download.
Yeah, it's an app that you download, that you get, it's called the PlayStation app, and there's only one app for all games. Depending which game you're playing, it automatically gives you the content that is available. So
iPad?
Yeah.
So it'll be iPad or Android.
So you got to understand the importance of the bridge that was just made right there when he said the word iPad.
So you hold the
This is Sony talking about Apple.
You can put all those guys back in.
Now you put all the guys back inside the controller.
That's wild.
So we forgot one.
There we go. You go back in, and everyone's there. Ready for another round.
Wow.
Right? And so we're living in this time. So that's what's coming this fall. The 10 pillars of the iPad, when I give this talk, it changes the number of pillars, but right now there's 10, so just deal with it, okay? So the 10 pillars are, this one device, and the quote I love is Ann McCormick, who started the Learning Company, we've been around since the Apple II and the floppy disks flopped, is that this convergence that we're seeing, and we have this power to tell stories, to let the child, to empower a young child. It's really exciting. There's multi-touch, there's batteries that can last as long as you can, that can stay awake. That's so important. And then there's this army of developers from all over the world, and the ideas are flowing in the App Store around the world at the speed of light. So the world is shrinking culturally as well. These are just some of the incredible things that happened 2.5 years ago when Steve Jobs let the genie out of the bottle and started this whole tablet thing. So it's, from a historical perspective, it's important to remember that Beatrix Potter was also a pioneer. Her cutting-edge technology was color printing. And because Peter Rabbit was in color, the books flew off the shelf. She had to pay 10 times more. Her printer objected. She ended up marrying the printer, so it worked out. But it's an incredible story. And then Walt Disney was another incredible story of somebody who came to Hollywood with $40, a set of pencils, and trousers that didn't match. And in Disney Animated, the app, you can hear the story of how understanding how to use the power of the technology not only keeps children from hitting the home button, but it also can make you can build a kingdom and get the ultimate wealth if you understand the power. So so history is really important to consider. The other constant is the theoretical view. And so I believe in this very strongly. I think that all you young whippersnappers who are designing apps, you don't understand that Candy Crush and Angry Birds are applied behaviorist theory. And if you just go back to your high school psychology and Skinner and operant conditioning, you can understand why you get so addicted to games like Candy Crush. And I think you should play it and study it and understand it, and then use it when you need to, because it works. Now, I was a public school teacher. I know you have a toolkit, and it's all about survival. And behaviorism and reinforcement is really a powerful tool if you know how to use it. I really like the way you guys are sitting. It's excellent. Thank you very much. So the game here is, and this is my first glitch, is 2 pictures didn't come through in the translation, but that's okay. What would these guys all say about an ebook? Montessori, Jean Piaget, Vygotsky in the zone of proximal development, right? What would they say about Facebook, for example? What would Vygotsky say about Facebook or Twitter? The way that knowledge is flying around right now. I think these guys would just be ecstatic. But they would each have a different view. Skinner would see something very different than Piaget, and these are the foundations that will help in the conversations. The other person I'm adding in here is Jerome Bruner, who is 97 years old. I saw him speak about 10 years ago. It was very cool. But cognitive science is really important. And talking about scaffolding techniques, which I hope come up during our time, how we can connect the child's finger with meaning and through the language. Things like scaffolding and Ocean House Media. And I said, you guys do great scaffolding. And they're like, what's that? That's cognitive science. Okay. It's there. But the fact you can touch a word and have it jump out of the sentence and lay over the object. Do you realize how cognitively important that is? And the child's controlling it? I mean, when I was teaching reading in 4th grade in Cadillac, Michigan, I would have given my eye teeth for that kind of a thing. So I saw Benjamin Franklin, and he had his iPad out, and I asked him, and he had a lot to say about libraries. You know, this is the time when we get this technology to the haves and the have-nots. So the dog is learning theory. It wags the tail. And we are so lucky to have the Fred Rogers NAYC position statement is a great way of documenting the dog. Because it goes through the pros and cons of technology, as well as the theories and the constructivist theory that is why kids want to stay with us. So remember, this is all the tail. The dog is in the theory. So then the reviewer's view. And so the reason I think I'm here at this conference is because I work with the Bologna Children's Book Fair, where thousands of children's book publishers meet, and I coordinate a contest for eBooks. So I'm in this wonderful position of being able to see about 250 different eBooks submitted all around the world, and I get to review them and see what they are. And so I see incredible things. So there's a YouTube video where we asked the jurors to talk about what they liked and what they didn't like. And I was really committed this year to turning it into just not one of these contests where there's a seal and whatever, but I want the jurors, I want it transparent. I want people to see who's making the decision and the process they went through. And so this is the prize at a glance. And one of the things that I wrote about was why it didn't win. And the jurors talked a lot about page flippers. And so I wanted you to have that term, thinking beyond the page, which is the title of this talk. It's time to start thinking about the richness of interactive media. And I think we're going to have an app shootout later on, right, Jeremy, where we're going to get a chance to show some things. And one of the things I always tell you guys to do is download 10 versions of the same story, such as Three Little Pigs, or I did for this one, I did Red Riding Hood. And you can start to form your own lens for what is quality. That's really important. I can't read any of these, either there or there, but it's on that link. Oh, you guys can read it there. And there's a lot of really nasty practice, a lot of commercialism going on that just is not appropriate in the children's app space. We as a group have to raise our voices and say, children's play space is sacred, and there needs to be clear guidelines for selling when something is informing and when something is selling. And we're making progress. The Moms with Apps groups came out with a labeling thing, and that's great, but there's still this really nasty practice that I see. We look for innovation. We look for a good story, right? And quality illustrations and quality audio. These are sort of the generic forms of quality that we talk about. And the Children's Technology Review, we have our own instrument that we've used for over 20 years. That we use and we bend it. It's flexible. So we bent it around the ebook category, and we've created a portal now, and I'm hoping I can talk some smart people into joining me to use this flexible rubric to start looking at ebooks. And so we're going to be talking about quality or how to measure this, and I know we're all interested in doing that. But one of the things that I learned is that the categories of fiction and nonfiction lay very nicely onto the ebook category of products. And that's kind of nice. All right, so what's coming? Tablets. There's the top-down approach that we're all going to be dealing with. Sort of you remember IBM's Writing to Read? Well, guess what? Now it's Rupert Murdoch and Joel Klein. They're going to sell a $300 tablet, preloaded. It's the superintendents will come in, do this. We know where your kids are. Done. Then there's the bottoms up. There are the Exo tablet and all these $150 tablets, and of course the iPad, where teachers can use it any way they like. And there's a lot of interesting, there's probably over 20 tablets coming this fall. So the last view is the child's view. We always have to remember that things look very different to a young child. This is a slide, and you remember what it was like going up those steps. And when you got to the top, how scary it was and how high it was. And every experience is that exciting for a child when they come into something. They have these expectations. This is actually a view of an app. This is what an app sees. These kids were fooling around with my iPad, and they accidentally took a screen capture with the camera. And so those are the bosses. And this is the question that every developer has. What can I turn the finger into? How can I empower the child? And that's the challenge of a designer. So that's about me. I always do introductions backwards, so you can say, oh, that's that guy. So there's all the things that I've done in my 50 years or so, and I think that one right there is probably the most important. I'm trying to do my laser. There it is. That's me right there with my 6th grade class. So that reality is really important as we move into this. We are working for all those teachers out there who are really working their hardest, and we need to give them the tools. Thank you very much.